Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video live on YouTube. Out to you because you're watching. Thank you. And it's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates. Again, thank you. The Core New Core. Anybody interested in surviving as a Pilates instructor, and anyone interested in core new tension, whether you're interested in Pilates or not. In today's broadcast, I have five titles. The first title is about familiar and aware. 2 words. Familiar and aware. And so, it doesn't hurt to be familiar about la-da-da-da-da, right? And it's good to be aware of la-da-da-da-da, or whatever, right? And so, in that regard, or from my profession to you to survive as a Pilates instructor, and hopefully helping you use your awareness of MMP and CT, I would want you to be familiar with MMP, because it's a theory. A theory is an explanation of facts, right? And so basically MMP is an explanation of the facts being Joe's original work, and that original work being contained within his book, so no facts beyond his book. In MMP, do you need to reach for the theory? And so, even if you despise the notion that you could explain Pilates, or that you could have a theory about Pilates, and nothing matters but aristocratic lineage and tradition and the heart and soul that everyone brings uniquely to their passion for Pilates. Even if that's the case, it helps to be familiar with some things that you don't like or don't agree with, or don't want to even entertain the notion of. But see, that comes back to survival, and I profess to you to help you survive as a Pilates instructor. And survival, if there's a theory out there, if all of a sudden enough people recognize that there's an explanation of the work, of the facts, then you want to at least be familiar with it, so that you can't admit ignorance to it. And you can just say, oh yeah, I know that, and then go on teaching the way you teach. And if it has any similarity to Joe's original work, you would think that whatever Michael Miller Pilates is, professing as an ideal out of Joe's original work, you and it ought to line up, because you're familiar with it. Through one avenue of exposure or another. And then aware of something. To me, this trademark of mine points to the fact of the physics in core new tension. And it's, opposition. Here's rotation at one axis, the arms. Here's rotation around another axis, the ears. You with me so far? And when you oppose those rotational axes, you get core new tension. And so, to me, that's being aware of a purported fact, because I'm the one purporting it. Maybe it's not a fact, but I can, just as easily as I did, give instruction to achieve a sensation, and it's the sensation that I identify as core new tension. The math and the physics and the biology, you know, if it's real, we'll support that if it doesn't already. So number one on my topics today was familiar and aware. Is that it can't hurt you to be familiar with MMP. It's a theory that's designed to explain the facts of Joe's original work, just within his book. And based on those facts, if the theory holds any water where an ideal is revealed through the general principles that are applied to the facts, see? General principles applied to the facts. Coming back to my point of launch, which was familiar, it doesn't hurt to be familiar with an explanation of Pilates. And that's what it boils down to. It's an explanation of Pilates. And it can't hurt you to be aware, to be familiar with that explanation, especially if you recognize the distinction. We talked about distinction yesterday, I think. The distinction of knowing versus not knowing. The number of people that are familiar with Michael Miller Pilates, based upon the number of people that are around the world that are practicing Pilates now, it's very small, huh? And so aware of the physics, it's important to me for you to understand that core new tension is about biomechanics. And in a way, it has nothing to do with Pilates. Or the fact of the physics, the condition of the engagement, exists in and of itself without any application or inclination or exposure to or involvement with Pilates. And so that's important in case you really don't feel like being a Pilates instructor, or being Pilates gets overrun to the point where you can't earn a decent living as a Pilates instructor. I find that hard to believe, but you never know about your location and your situation. Core new tension applies to everything, applies to the body. It's me, Michael Miller, pointing to the fact of the physics, core new tension, as a tension in the body that distributes load and creates a sensation of alignment out of the tension between the 2 points. Follow me? So, let's see if I'm on track here. Well, I've got to get down to number 4, but number two. It's a common question, and the question is, what are you listening to? Oh, what are you listening to? You know, if you have earbuds in and you can't tell, you know, what are you listening to? Or, you know, a drummer that beats to their own drum, and what are they listening to? And in achieving the goal of an instructor, a person can be listening to what they're thinking, or they can be listening to what they're sensing. Okay? And I think my mind just wants to listen to itself think, right? Why be distracted by anything other than the whim of how I direct my thinking? And so it's an intrusion to have to listen to what you're sensing. And yet that's where the rub is in the complete coordination of the three capacities in a human being, right? Their body, their mind, and beyond their mind is their connection to their senses. The observation of the senses, the listening to the senses. So, number 2 is, what are you listening to? A lot of times, mostly, I'm just listening to myself think. I'm listening to my thinking. And the crux to the matter of a Pilates instructor is that you have to listen to more than just your thinking. You have to listen to your sensations in order to get the complete coordination of all three, right? Body, mind, and spirit. And see, I don't care how you I define spirit one particular way, as the observer, as the listener, as the concentrator, that is connected to, viscerally connected to, the sensational input coming from the body, right? Body, mind, and spirit. So that was number 2. Number 3 is simple and quick. It's 3 really good words I like. It's an admonition. And the admonition is to make it real. Make it real. Make it real. And then my point to make it real is write it down. So the title is Make It Real. Write it down. And we've talked about that before in terms of taking notes and the way you scroll your notes through your notebook. But make it real. It makes such a difference. And to the extent that you incorporate writing stuff down on the fly as it comes up, because you have a notebook and a pen with you, it's really easy to make it real by writing it down. In a bigger, better way than trying to hold on to it in your head. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 here. So I have a question for you. Why would I say this? That's the question, I guess. And what I would say is that you have to accept core new tension before you can get to MMP, Michael Miller Pilates. So I would make the statement that I suspect that you really have to accept core new tension before you can get to Michael Miller Pilates. And so if you're a student of mine and you're listening to this and you're wondering what I'm getting at, or I'm leaving that to you, what am I getting at? I'll tell you in a second. But if I say that you really have to accept core new tension in order to get Michael Miller Pilates, why would I say that? What does core new tension give you? And what is core new tension? 4 words. My presenters all have them memorized. Oppositional rotation between axes. That's core new tension. You can demonstrate it easy as pie if you have use of your arms and your ears. And if you don't, and you can talk or write, you can at least issue instructions to help other people find that feeling. Because it exists. And so. The reason why you have to accept core new tension to get to Michael Miller Pilates that I'm thinking of is okay, here's another clue. All right, it's a, what is that? It's a fluorescent lamp, right? And so I've often been criticized about pointing to fluorescence as such an apropos comparison, because it takes the battery energy between 2 points, and it's the battery energy that then activates between, I just said that, 2 points, and then it produces an effect, like a uniform effect. And it's my way of looking at it, that when the body seeks to engage in core new tension, it's engaging in an idealization of that engagement in order to have as uniform engagement as possible. Right? So that lays the groundwork for why in Michael Miller Pilates you eventually let go of locked knees and pointed toes and go to straight legs, if you will, but unlocked knees and an endpoint of tension at the metatarsals. Pointed toes or no, it's the endpoint that matters to the physics of distributing the load. And so if you're a classicist, you're never going to accept letting go of Joe's own words in his book. I can read them to you. Locked knees, pointed toes. And that's a way of getting engagement and controlling engagement. But the same engagement you use to get uniform usage or to distribute more uniformly your engagement and to hold alignment is core new tension. That's just my belief and the way I see that, but that's what I share with you. And because I believe it, maybe it's true or not, but if it is, then core new tension has to be the ideal way of distributing load in the body. And so if that's the case, you can feel this argument coming along, right? If that's the case, and Joe promises that contrology produces a uniformly developed body, and a uniformly developed body is the promise, and that's what we're after, and that by most uniformly engaging the body, you end up with the most uniform usage, development, right? Usage to get the development. Then it's core new tension that will help a new student, you maybe, make sense of where MMP is coming from on something like that, like locked knees and pointed toes. It's not like there's a lot of them, but the difference helps you appreciate or be aware of the biomechanics of core new tension as a means to sensing alignment, and most importantly, triggering uniform engagement of the musculature. And so it seems as a presenter, to get your listener to where you hope to take them as quickly and as easily as you possibly can, and recognizing that there are fundamental assumptions in core new tension that inform Michael Miller Pilates as a theory of Pilates. See, and that's all that it is. And a theory, what is a theory? A theory is an explanation of the facts. It's not the only one, it's just one. So Michael Miller Pilates is an explanation of Joe's original work, and through three things right out of his book. And it's up to you to know those three things, because that's fundamental to Michael Miller Pilates. All right, and then number five. An ideal engagement of an exercise is what I thought of today when I'm on the reformer doing coordination. You're on your back, your hands are in the handles, connected to roper straps that are connected to the carriage, and the carriage is attached with a medium spring. And from knees bent in, arms go out straight, legs go out straight, open, 90 degrees. They make a translation. We talked about that a few lessons ago. So the legs go out, and they can't go out any farther, and they translate into going in a different direction. And then coming back in, it's the same direction until the legs can't melt into one another, and then the translation happens when knees bend, and you come in. And my comment about the ideal engagement of the exercise comes at the end of coordination, where on the last time out, opening and coming in that outness, yes, I'm engaged in my metatarsals and unlocked in my knees, and in the reach through the wrist, and yes, I'm through the wrist, through the first two knuckles, to be in line with the tension. To be totally in line with the tension. Shoulder blades touching, creased at sternum, neck at ease, and yet everything, so connected. My medial glutes are screaming for mention, about along the glutes and everything of the powerhouse. I guess my reflection on that number five, an ideal engagement of the exercise. The spring tension makes it much easier to find your own ideal engagement within the tension. And right there at the end, when the legs are long and the arms are straight, and the body has such an engagement in the line that it's in. It's where reaching for the ideal meets the real. And it's a nice place to be. I didn't have a summary. It's good to be familiar with MMP. It's a theory that explains Joe's book. How's that for simple? It's good to be aware of core new tension, which has been identified by, I like that word, identified, by a student of mine from 20 years ago, saying, you're really on it, even back then, about having identified core new tension. And so I can't understate enough, to me, how important it is for you to be aware of core new tension, and how when you accept a little bit of that, okay, you accept a lot of that. So the reason you go through core new tension to get to Michael Miller Pilates is because it's a paradigm shift, or it's a big leap. This is not at all like what you were used to, or what you are used to. And so this is the framework of the assumption of how the body engages itself to move through space. So use those words, make them your own. Coronary tension is a means that the body uses, or the human being uses, to engage its body to move through space. And being aware of it is this big, huge leap, because of course it makes obvious the leap of that the core is a grip at the hips, and it's not a metaphor. It's energetically the case, dynamically in the muscles, in the bones, and the whole structure of a human being is to be able to control an axis of rotation at the hips. And we go from an axis of rotation at the hips to another axis of rotation at the shoulders. Look at there. And you end up in the humanoid with coronary tension that engages itself through the tension between the opposition of the rotation. What has to happen off of that is expansion, because when you're contracting the grip, there's more of the outer, right? And for the outer to stay within the container of the body, you have to expand. That's how you get. Perhaps it's the only way I'm lost in my own way of seeing it. But it's the way you get eccentric tension on the spine, from the ears to the shoulders, and the shoulders to the hips. And be sensitive to the nature of the engagement happening from the extremity back to the more stable. So like I said, the ability to rotate around the ears reaches back and connects to the stability of the shoulders, just like the shoulders in expressing itself reaches down to the hips to stabilize itself more. You follow? I haven't thought about metatarsal at the hips, but I think it matters that you realize the engagement of coronary tension cascades from the mobile toward the stable. I don't get any more poetic than that. Life only lasts forever. No, I don't say that right. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines. See behind the curtain. Add two and two. Direct your thinking. See, all of those admonitions assume a you doing that. And it's only you that can do that. So to the extent that you do it, you're being you, and to the extent that you're avoiding it, you're indulging yourself by ignoring reality. Just an opinion. Those trite sayings, see behind the curtain, read between the lines, add two and two, right? They're all about you being you. Geist.